AI is changing almost everything, including the way we learn. The first time I saw what a generative AI system could actually do, it was immediately clear to me that education was standing at a turning point. Not a small adjustment. A structural shift. And the truth is, many of the learning practices we treat as essential today are about to become optional, outdated, or even counterproductive. At first, most educators responded with fear. The assumption was simple: if students can use AI, then they will not learn anything. If a machine can write an essay, then assigning essays becomes pointless. But that response misunderstands both learning and technology. Many institutions tried to ban AI outright. Others tried to detect AI usage. But that strategy is already collapsing. These systems will continue improving. They will become more fluent, more contextual, and more human-like. Eventually, there will be nothing reliable left to detect. So instead of trying to stop this technology, we need to do the opposite. We need to understand how to use it properly. The train has already left the station. Standing on the tracks and yelling for it to stop is not a strategy. In this video, I want to walk through the real advantages and real risks of AI in education, and more importantly, how we elevate learning instead of weakening it. To understand where we are going, it helps to look at where we have been. Education has always evolved alongside tools. Skills that once mattered deeply eventually faded, not because they were useless, but because they were no longer the best use of limited learning time. Take cursive writing. There was a time when every student learned it. Today, many people cannot read cursive at all, because it is no longer essential. Most writing now happens digitally. The value of penmanship declined as tools changed. The same thing happened with penmanship as a subject. In earlier generations, handwriting quality was considered critical. Today, it is largely irrelevant. The skill did not disappear because it lacked value. It disappeared because its opportunity cost became too high. We only have so much time to educate students. Every hour spent on one skill is an hour not spent on another. That trade-off matters. Memorization is another example. Many of us spent countless hours memorizing facts that can now be retrieved instantly. That time was not wasted in the past. It made sense when access to information was limited. But today, memorizing raw data often produces diminishing returns. Understanding principles still matters. Context still matters. But memorizing information that can be instantly looked up is no longer the highest value use of instructional time. The same logic applies to complex arithmetic. Students used to spend years drilling calculations by hand. Today, calculators handle those tasks instantly. Once the fundamentals are understood, repetition adds little value. Instead, that time can be redirected toward algebra, calculus, modeling, and reasoning. Skills that require judgment, not repetition. Even map reading has followed this pattern. It is still useful, but it is not nearly as important as the ability to use navigation systems effectively. Again, this is not about abandoning fundamentals. It is about choosing relevance. Education is not about preserving the past. It is about preparing students for the future they will actually live in. So the question becomes this: if we are responsible educators, what skills best prepare students for the world ahead? If we were hiring someone today, would we value their ability to perform tasks manually, or their ability to use modern tools intelligently? The tools of the present, and certainly the tools of the future, include AI. That brings us to the real issue. Not whether students should use AI, but how. What skills become more important in an AI-enabled world? At a broad level, flexibility matters. Adaptability matters. Creative thinking matters. The ability to operate outside rigid frameworks matters more than ever. But above all, one skill governs all the others. Critical thinking. AI will produce information confidently. Sometimes that information will be wrong. Sometimes it will be correct but irrelevant. Sometimes it will be correct but harmful if applied carelessly. That means humans must judge. Humans must evaluate. Humans must think. Critical thinking is the skill that allows us to decide whether an answer is true, useful, appropriate, or dangerous. Now let us talk about what AI actually brings to education when used correctly. One advantage is just-in-time learning. If you need to refresh a concept, explore a topic, or gain background knowledge quickly, AI can deliver that efficiently. It reduces friction. It reduces delay. That is powerful. Another major advantage is personalized tutoring. Not all students learn the same way. Some need repetition. Others need analogy. Others need visual explanation. An AI tutor can adapt endlessly without fatigue. It does not replace teachers. It augments them. It fills gaps where human time is limited. AI can also act as an editor. It can identify grammatical issues, structural weaknesses, and clarity problems. More importantly, it can explain why something is incorrect. That feedback loop accelerates learning while freeing teachers to focus on higher-level thinking and content quality. Accessibility is another major benefit. AI can convert text to speech, speech to text, and images to descriptions. For students with learning differences or disabilities, this can remove barriers that previously limited participation. That is not convenience. That is equity. From a teaching perspective, AI can also function as an assistant. It can help with lesson planning, grading support, and administrative tasks. That frees educators to do what matters most: teach, mentor, and guide. AI can also support practice. Students can debate with AI. They can test arguments. They can explore counterpoints. They can rehearse reasoning. In this role, AI does not think for the student. It pressures the student to think better. This leads to an important point. The real risk of AI in education is not cheating. The real risk is passive learning. If students rely on AI before they attempt to think, the brain never builds structure. Understanding feels smooth, but it remains shallow. This is known as the fluency illusion. When explanations feel easy, we mistake clarity for mastery. Recognition replaces reasoning. Critical thinking requires friction. It requires effort. It requires moments of confusion. AI must be used to support that process, not eliminate it. Used properly, AI can actually strengthen critical thinking. Students can use it to challenge assumptions, test reasoning, and explore consequences. But the sequence matters. Attempt first. Then consult AI. Then reconstruct understanding independently. Then apply the idea in a new context. That sequence preserves thinking. AI also has the potential to reduce global inequality in education. High-quality learning tools become accessible anywhere with an internet connection. This does not eliminate the need for teachers, but it amplifies their reach. Ultimately, AI allows educators to focus on the big picture: learning objectives, conceptual understanding, individual growth. That is where education creates long-term value. However, this requires AI literacy. Students and teachers must understand what AI can do, what it cannot do, and where it fails. It also requires ethical awareness. Just because something is possible does not mean it is wise. Responsible use matters. Practically, this means shifting how we assess learning. Less emphasis on memorization. More emphasis on debate, application, synthesis, and reasoning under pressure. These are skills AI cannot replace. AI is not a temporary trend. No employer will ask someone to avoid using the best available tools. Education must reflect that reality. If students will use AI in the workplace, they should learn to use it responsibly in the classroom. Otherwise, we are preparing students for a world that no longer exists. And that is the real risk.